Enjovu Family Business was started in 2022, and we started this business to support family-owned businesses and to build a community of family-owned businesses in Uganda, so that we could share best practice. And the goal is that more family businesses will be able to transition from one generation to another because of the knowledge and community that we have built. We organize events like webinars and workshops, conferences, and we also share knowledge through reports and books. We also do research. This year, we're working with the Economic Policy Research Center at Makerere University, and we're doing some research on family business that will be shared with you in due time. So I want to ask, how do we define succession? If any member of the audience could answer. Thank you.
Yes, if anyone wants to answer that, you can put your hand up and we give you right to unmute. Okay. Oh. How do we define family business? Anybody wants to give it a shot?
How do we define succession planning?
Oh, succession planning, sorry.
Yes.
How do we define succession planning? Yes, Stephen.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning, Mr. Kasenge.
Good morning, Betty. I'm glad to be part of this. Succession planning is whereby you put in place systems and arrangements to ensure that in event that the business promoters and managers are not there, the business is able to carry on to serve its purpose and its objectives, and it does not stop because key people are missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasenge. That is very true. This succession planning is a lifelong process. Some people maybe, try to do it in a short time, but it's a lifelong process because it starts from the point where some people ask, at what point should I start thinking about succession? And it's recommended that the first night that you sleep satisfied that your company is a viable entity, it's a signal for you to start thinking about continuity. And it's a lifelong process that encompasses a wide range of steps aimed at ensuring succession through multiple generations. It's very critical to ensuring the success of our enterprises in future. And you'll know that it has been successful or it has gone well when people don't even notice that it has happened. And business just continues as usual. Now, in the context of family business, there are quite a number of succession concerns from family members. And I'll give some examples. When the father is the founder and, the children are saying, we don't think Dad is ever going to retire. What kind of future does this leave for me? You're working with your father, you've been working, and he's going nowhere. So are you going to be your father's number 2 for the rest of your life? Those are the questions that people ask themselves. And then from the father's perspective, he says it's impossible for him to let go of a company that he spent a lifetime building. And he does not believe that the next generation is ready. Then from a daughter's perspective, I don't think I'm ever going to own any shares in this business. So why should I participate? Your family may be expecting you to participate in one way or another, maybe sit on a board, or maybe you have a job in the business, but you want to do other things with your life. And at the end of the day, maybe the rule is that the shares of this business can only be passed down to members to the boys in the family. And then lastly, how am I going to get along with my brothers and sisters in the business? So it's one thing when your parents are there to guide and to supervise and to support. And it's another thing altogether when you're just working together as siblings. So these are some of the concerns of family members. Now, I would like to share the 5 pieces and how the 5 pieces tie into the main concerns that people have around succession. So the 5 pieces that we have here are: 1, preparing the chief executive officer. This is usually the founder of the business and the person who started the business. Preparing the business for succession. This is the actual company, the employees, whatever you have on the ground, the customers, the capital that you've invested. Then developing the successor or successors. You might have more than one successor. Preparing the family, and lastly, preparing the ownership team. These are the 5 pieces. So when it comes to preparing the CEO, the CEO is actually the most important factor in this equation, because the CEO determines how this process is going to go. They are steering the ship. And as they say, the fish rots from the head. So the attitude of the CEO is the single most important factor in the succession process. And succession can never be complete until the CEO gives up control of the company and moves on to other things. And as entrepreneurs in this call, I'm now talking to you as CEOs. Sometimes, as you're going through that succession process, there's some emotions that you need to prepare for. You may have identified a successor and you're now in the process of handing over. And it may appear that that successor is outshining you. That can also create a rivalry between you and the successor. Some of the challenges that CEOs have is when the successor who you mentored now becomes independent of you and no longer comes to ask you for your opinion before they make decisions. Then sometimes you come into the company and the systems have completely changed from what you had put in place as the former CEO. And at the end of the day, you will feel very lost. And sometimes you'll feel like you're in a foreign company. And yet this is the company that you started. But you need to know that there's no successor who is going to be like you. So it's important that you navigate that entire process of succession. And I think one of the things that you can really work hard to do is to separate your identity from the business, especially if you're the founder. Sometimes you and the business are one, I think at all times. But it's a good time when you start thinking about succession to start thinking about the things that you're going to do when you exit this business or as you step away from this business gradually, and resist temptation to hold on in the process. There's so much that you can do with your life, and there's so much more going on out there. You can even start a new business. There are communities that you can join, like Rotary. There's so much you can do. There's philanthropic work that you can do. There are just so many other things that you can do to allow the people who you have left to actually run the company. And you will have your own life, so you will not be interfering in what they're doing. And lastly, on this point, these are some of, if you're to look at it from a structured approach, these are the 4 areas that I would recommend that CEOs think about and plan for. 1 is to develop a strategic plan for the business, which you will share with the CEO who you're leaving in charge, and discuss with them so that you can understand where you want the business to go. 2 is to have a personal financial plan. If you're stepping away from the business and you're not going to be receiving salary or whatever compensation you had been getting, you need to plan for that. 3 is an estate plan. What is your plan for your ownership in the business and also your personal assets? And lastly, post-retirement activities, interacting with your community, teaching, and other business, activities that you can engage with. Just a moment. Yes. So moving on to the next item, which is preparing the business. And when we talk about preparing the business, we are talking about preparing the business to grow independent and to grow successfully independent of you, meaning that you're not there, but things are still moving on well. And one of the things that you could consider as a business owner is to prepare for the business to be in a state as if you're going to sell it. And what does that mean? It should be in good condition for your successor. When you hand over a business, sometimes you get the opportunity to plan for your succession, sometimes you don't. But you can imagine, for one reason or another, you're not able to manage the business anymore, but you have so many lawsuits. You have quite a huge amount of debt. Maybe the customers have not been paying, you've not been managing your cash flow very well. And this is now the state of the business in which your son or your daughter or your wife is supposed to, maybe you've fallen sick, or, there are so many reasons why people lose capacity to manage their business. But let's just say it happens suddenly. And just think about your business in its current state. Is it really in a state for someone to come in and manage, or you must be there? And so you need to think about it from that perspective. Some of the key considerations are the staff you have. Do the staff you have you actually trained them? Are they capable? What do your books look like? Do they tell the truth? Do they tell a lie? What story do they tell? And will your successor be able to carry it forward? What sort of equipment have you invested in? And what sort of facilities do you have as a company? And lastly, is compliance. Have you been compliant with the laws governing operating a business in the area that you're in? What is the person who is going to come after you going to inherit in terms of responsibilities? And just think about preparing the business in such a way that these people can sort of have a place to start from and not be put down by so many outstanding issues that they will have such a big challenge navigating. And sometimes the issues are just so big, the business has to close. If the debt is so big, you knew as the owner how you were going to pay that money, but the person who has come into your shoes has no idea. So these are some of the things that we need to think about. Number 3 is developing the successors. Now, succession planning, I would say in the family business context, if you're looking at children, it really starts from when they're very young. And, some people say that, like the moderator, Miss Malinga, was telling us that she has got her very young children involved in her business. And it's really important for your children to know what you do for a living. It's important for them to know, at the different ages and stages in which they understand what you do for a living, understand the work that you do, understand that business is a process of generating value. And then also as a family, what sort of values are you sharing with your children? You know, some of us go back home at the end of the day and we're just telling our children we're so tired, people are not paying, da 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 da. And the way we talk about our work and our businesses, they're listening to us and they're thinking, I need to find something else to do because I cannot work the way daddy is working and I cannot do what daddy is doing. I cannot deal with that amount of stress. Daddy is always complaining or mommy is always complaining about the business. And then at some point, you start to try to tell them that, oh, you want them to join, you want them to participate. But imagine for 15 years, they've been hearing you complain every single day at the dinner table on the challenges of your business. So sometimes we also need to think about, how we share what we're doing with our children. Then attitude preparation for the successor candidate. What kind of values are you instilling in your child? Personal development plan, which I'll share about. Leadership development, and a personal rationale for the successor. Now, the personal rationale is really, really important. As a founder, you know why you are doing what you're doing in your business. Now, when you bring a child into the business, they need to also develop their own reasons why they're doing what they're doing. And that is what's going to carry them forward because that's the fire that keeps us going to do the work that we do. It's important to support your successor to discover what you call their why and why it's important that they do the work that they're doing, because it will allow them to carry whatever vision that you had to go forward. So I want to move, just share a little bit more about development opportunities in terms of leadership for success candidates. These are ideal that have been, over time, people have shared how their parents supported them to succeed and things like that. And these are some of the things that you can think about in the context of your successors. One, it's important that they get work experience outside the family business. And, if it's a bigger business, it's ideal. And it should be a business where nobody knows who they are. It would also be ideal if they got a promotion in that business so that they understand it from that context. Then if as a parent, you have some friends who are doing business successfully, you can also support your children to be mentored by some of these people. Exposure to other groups and companies and societies like SEED, Enterprise Uganda, Rotary, and even visits to bigger enterprises. If you're a factory that is making, I don't know, if you're making tablets, you should take them to India so that they see, what bigger factories are doing, because it also allows them to see where they can go and to understand the possibilities and to also eliminate some of those ceilings that they have around the business that you're in. Then involve them in business processes, coming to company, even coming to the end of your party, coming to strategic planning sessions. Those ones are really good so that they can understand, more about what the business is doing and where it's going in terms of strategy, and offering them assignments that allow them to develop specific skills. If you feel that they need to work on their marketing skills, it would be good for them to get an assignment that puts them directly in a position to market. Then number 4 is preparing the family. When we talk about preparing the family, we are talking from our level at Uganda. I think I'll talk about family meetings. It's important to have family meetings where family members can address, the different issues that they're having with the business and how it ties into the family, because people need to have a place where they can have meaningful discussions. When people are not able to talk about these matters, when they have no voice in the family, it sort of spills into the business. So it's important that you have a place as a family, or you have meetings where you can talk about what's going on in the business. You can update, what we're trying to do in terms of expansion. And there's so many benefits of these meetings. For example, communication will improve. You discuss issues. Let's say you have a new manager. The management gains confidence because it recognizes that the family backs its efforts. It's important for the spouses to understand what the business is about. Even the next generation, which is the grandchildren, see the family members coming together to talk about the business, and they begin to understand how important this is to us as a family. It provides a good forum to educate and develop the younger family members, and it helps to maintain unity and trust in the face of new challenges that will come, because the family is going to grow in size, and that is also going to bring some complexities. Now, I would like to talk about the ownership team. When we talk about the ownership team, we're talking about the owners who are family members. Now, as the family goes on from one generation to another, the owners are just going to increase, because you may have 2 children, but those 2 children are going to have maybe 5 children. And, it just keeps increasing. So it's a very big issue. So what happens when the number of people in the next generation are increasing? We may have started with 2 founders. Those 2 founders had their children. So now they're 8. There were 8 second-generation owners. Now maybe there are 16 third-generation owners. And as much as so-and-so is my cousin or so-and-so is my brother and we have a good time, it's very different when we're now business partners, because we now own shares in the same business. A business partners relationship is very different from a sibling relationship, especially if we haven't done anything to nurture that side of the relationship, and we just find ourselves in it. Now, usually what happens, the key area of conflict, is that there are some shareholders who are in the business actively working, and there are others who are not, and they're just maybe receiving returns from the business. So sometimes the ones in the business really want to reinvest the capital, and the ones who are not in the business don't see the value. They are pushing for liquidity, and they want us to pull money out of the business and give it to them to do other things, or they want to sell their shares because they're not really in the business and they don't really understand what's going on. They're like, what are we doing here? Just sell our shares so that we can do other things. Now, one of the key competitive advantages of family business, above all other businesses, is that it has patient capital, because family businesses go beyond profits and they look a lot into generational wealth and legacy. They're not so much, every business is different, so I'll appreciate that. But family businesses usually don't focus so much on immediate returns. It's a longer vision and a longer horizon that they're looking at. So when that pressure is sort of eased, then people are not saying, we want our money, we want our money. It allows the business to grow at a measured pace, focusing on sustainable development and also really trying to move forward and carry forward the family values. So when you have shareholders who want to pull out, who want to sell their shares, it really becomes a challenge, and it disorganizes the entire ownership of the business. So it's important, the takeaway here is to mentor those heirs on what it means to be, what successful ownership means. And this will be done through the example of the actual owners, who are the parents. The heirs need to get an understanding of the selflessness that ownership requires. And some of the things that, you can have a discussion with your children about as you educate them and prepare them for a time when they'll be owners of this business, if you plan to hand it down to them, These are some of the questions that you can think about. What does ownership mean to us? Is it a stewardship responsibility or a financial investment? Because those two have very different implications. If it's a financial investment, I'm going to be looking at what I'm getting out of it and how the company is performing financially. If it's stewardship, then we'll also be looking at the social outcomes of the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having. What guidelines should we follow regarding reinvesting in the farm? As a family, how will we resolve disputes? Because the disputes will be there. What will be our policy regarding dividends and share redemption? How can we assure that minority shareholders are heard and treated fairly? Then the big question, which is a good question to have a discussion about with the successors, is under what conditions should we sell the business? It would be good to have a discussion with them about it to understand where they are mentally and for them to also understand where you are and sort of come together. This is part of the mentorship and preparation of them to be in an ownership position. And lastly, where will accountability lie? Will we be reporting to external directors, or it's mainly with the family shareholder group, or it's with both? So those are the 5 pieces of the puzzle. And looking forward to having a discussion with you about it. Lastly, I'll conclude by inviting you all to the Family Business Conference that we are going to be hosting on Friday, 17th October, that is next week. And in this event, we'll be talking about succession planning for family business, and specifically, how do we develop the next generation of leaders? Whether you're a founder, a next generation leader, working in a family business, a board member, it's an opportunity for you to connect, learn, and plan for the future of this enterprise. We'll be having 2 family business owners, Mr. Ifan Haji, who's a second generation owner of Graphic Systems East Africa, which is actually in the area where Enterprise Uganda is located, and Mrs. Mariam Luyombo, who is the founder of Taiba International Schools, and they'll be sharing their experiences in succession. We'll also be having a workshop on succession planning, where we'll really dive into some of the things that I've talked about today, just to support the entrepreneurs and their families to structure their succession process, and also to have those critical discussions that we believe will be very crucial to their businesses going forward. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Elizabeth. Ladies and gentlemen, if I were you, I would go to the chat and give her a round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing those 5 pieces. They've come out very, very well. And I was busy taking notes. I actually was enjoying the conversation, and I was hoping there would be more than 5, but these 5 have come out very, very well. Preparing the CEO, preparing the business, developing the successors, preparing the family, and then the ownership team. Okay, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you, Miss Elizabeth. I think you can see in the chat, we are going in for our Q&A. And so we want to start this conversation. We want to engage Miss Elizabeth on this topic. Personally, I think it's very, very important. And it's a conversation that we've started strongly at Enterprise Uganda. I think a few weeks ago, some of you were with us at the Center of Excellence in Butabika, and we had a family business masterclass. This is one of the things that is at the heart of our conversations at Enterprise Uganda, and we're developing a full-fledged program around it. And I'm glad that Enjovu and other organizations are also having the same conversations. If we ignore this topic, then we shall build in vain. And so Thank you so much, Miss Elizabeth. This has been really insightful and eye-opening. And yes, I'd slow down on the conversation of family of some of these businesses with my children, but now this actually pushes me even much stronger to start this conversation again. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, over to you. Please let's have the questions and answer the questions coming in so that we engage Miss Elizabeth on this topic. In the chat there, I see Stephen saying succession planning is not exclusive to family members. It is about preparing the best possible successors. They can be family members or non-family professionals, depending on the organization. Okay, thank you so much for that feedback. Cecilia says, thank you for the enlightenment through the training. What a beautiful way to start the Independence Day celebrations. Amazing. Okay, let me have some hands up. Yes, there is Maureen Dahura. Maureen, if you can unmute and ask your question. Maureen?
Trying to unmute.
Yes. We can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay, great. Yes, thank you so much for the beautiful presentation. It was insightful and, making us think deeper and plan better. I have an issue with the definition of omusika because in the Ugandan context, when someone takes over that role, they usually think it is now everything is theirs, and the tendency is to push out everybody else. How best can that issue be addressed? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Maureen, for that question on SCA. And those are some of the issues Ms. Elizabeth had actually raised, the concerns. Yes, Any other question before Ms. Elizabeth answers that? And okay, Mambale says she would like it to be shared. Yes, we want to hear you. I think Ms. Elizabeth, please come in and address this question as other people, pick up on what they want to ask.
Thank you very much. I think the issue of Obusika is you can look at it from two angles. One is the cultural understanding and the social understanding of what it means and what it also means to you as a family. And I think when it comes to what it means to you as a family, the onus is on the person who is the person who comes before the Musika, the one who is appointing the Musika, to explain what it is about and what it means. The law has also gone further to explain to allocate to a culture heir. If you look at, I don't want to get into it, but I'll just say that the law defines that a culture heir is not an heir of property. But if you die, if you pass on without a will, a culture heir will receive 1% of your estate. But what I can say is that that's really a social issue, and it may go beyond you as an individual, but it needs to be managed, I think, from the level of the family to begin with. Thank you. But I encourage the other members in the meeting to also share their thoughts. Thank you.
There you go. Please do share your thoughts also. And thank you, Miss Elizabeth, for sharing. I see Andrew here in the chat. Please feel free to raise your hand if you would like to add something to what Miss Elizabeth has shared. Okay, so right here in the chat, I see Andrew. Let me just read a few questions here. How does one go about succession where the person meant to succeed doesn't trust where the person meant to be succeeded doesn't trust the successor yet? Okay, please take note. We're going to share the link of the WhatsApp Enterprise Uganda WhatsApp group. Stephen says there's need to address the entitlement issue that has been the foundation of many family business failures. Okay. Harriet says, it made me think through my business, redefine what is business and what is what. My children are partners from the business establishment, and however, they love to define themselves, so they are doing their thing. While I explain all business processes to them, they leave it to me plus all incomes. Okay, let me invite you, Miss Elizabeth, first to address those three concerns.
First is when the successor does not feel, when someone feels that the person who is going to succeed him is not ready. I think, yes, that's a genuine concern. And it calls for a conversation between both parties, maybe with a third party involved. And I think as the person who wants to take over that role, or who believes that they're going to take over that role, I think one of the things that you need to ask and look at it is, where does this person see that there are some gaps, and how can you work together to close those gaps? Because they may see that there's some areas which are very critical for the success of the business, and you still need some growth and development in those areas. And those things can be worked on. So it's important to have that conversation. And it's very good that the person is still in the business and very active. And I think you can work together to close those gaps. Someone asked about entitlement. Yes, a lot of heirs approach their role in the family business with an attitude of entitlement. In fact, sometimes the business may be selling Blue Band and has been the biggest distributor of Blue Band in East Africa. And the child comes into the business and says, I'm not going to sell Blue Band, but I need you to fund I'm going to do something else and I need you to fund it. And, a lot of heirs go into the family business for all sorts of reasons. Some are looking for prestige. There's a very, very strong desire to win approval of our parents. Some have a very strong fear that if they don't work in the family business, they're doomed because they cannot get a job anywhere else. And I would encourage that you support your heirs and develop some self-awareness to understand what sort of things motivate your children. And these motivations how do they match with the skills and the needs of the company that you're running? And that sort of helps to create a desire for people to actually work together, as opposed to come into the business for their own selfish reasons. And I think it's important to nurture with children when they're very young that they're expected to come into the business on the basis of merit. And as your business develops, some of us run small companies, but these companies grow. They're not going to be small forever. You need to have these family meetings and have, eventually even have some policies about how do people come into the business in terms of employment, so that people know they're not just going to walk in because they're so-and-so's son. Let them be encouraged to think about the future in terms of the contribution they're going to make, as opposed to the benefits that they're going to get out of the business. And yeah, that's what I can say about entitlement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I was thinking maybe we need Enjovu needs to design a program specifically for the heirs, the Basika, and probably you'll see how to go about that. But thank you. It's a great concern, and they are concerned as heirs, but also the parents are also concerned. So probably that specific group will need their own kind of program to help prepare them for what lies ahead. Yes, let's continue. We have Harriet's. Okay, Harriet, we already read yours. Okay. Daniela says, what if the children don't like the business, like a mixed farm? And I think Elizabeth has touched a bit on it. You'll just throw more light. Fayeza Sanders says, many family businesses in my community are not preparing or planning this way. Children are not empowered and are low-paid workers. The owners don't easily hand over and hold tightly until the day they get ill or die. And that means the business closes overnight. Many family business owners I know keep their children close and don't allow them to live independently or even earn enough to live decently. Their self-esteem is rock bottom and find it difficult to live or believe that what they do is of value elsewhere. There you go. Harriet says, however, in my 60s, I ought to progressively fully hand over, though children live overseas. I'm waiting to see their choices. UG to see or UG or overseas and adapt business accordingly. Okay, there you go, Elizabeth. Probably can talk about those as other people join in. For those that have just joined us, we've had a very wonderful presentation about succession planning, given today's topic with Miss Elizabeth. And right now we are in a Q&A session, but don't worry, this conversation is going to be shared. The YouTube link will be shared so that you can just go there and listen in to what has been discussed this morning. Over to you, Miss Elizabeth.
Okay, I only saw one question. I think the other one was just a comment. What if the children don't like the business? I think at the core of all of this, it's really like we need to, as families, we really need to take communication about business and, just things and values and what we're trying to do with our children very seriously. The children not liking the business is a real thing, and you cannot force people to come into a business that they're not interested in. But you can have a meaningful discussion with them and support them in other ways to do what they want to do. And even you as an owner, you shouldn't feel that you're trapped with this business if your children are not interested in it. There are different ways to hand over a business that may not necessarily have your children's direct involvement. For example, you could take on external management, or you could invite other parties to invest in the business, or you could let go of the business and invest in some of the things that your children would like to do if they've shown seriousness and, they're already on a trajectory where they're actively doing those things. You can also support them to follow their own paths. I don't think that every business sometimes is going to be handed over from one generation to another, because at the end of the day, children also have their own interests. But what we can do is try to support them to understand what we're doing and to appreciate what we're doing and to get the knowledge and expertise to contribute to it. And hopefully they will take it on. But if they don't, we also need to be prepared for that and pursue other options. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Let's have Cecilia Akelo. Please unmute. Then we shall have Joan after.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. And my question is, what happens in a situation, for instance, like you find two single people, they both had businesses, and then they later got married. Let me give an example myself. I'm in Uganda, but I married in Nigeria. And before I got married, I was running some business here. Right now I'm selling rice, and my husband is in Nigeria. Nigeria currently. He's into construction, but he got into a partnership with his friend before we got married and established a school. And then myself, I'm also into travel business, which is through network marketing. This is something I just do, but you find that he's not passionate about it because he doesn't understand it. And I'm also not passionate about construction because I don't understand it. So I'm asking, like, if you can elaborate, like, on situations like people come together, they get married, each of them has their business. How can you easily have a soft landing and bring understanding to the couple? And then the second part, based on a comment I saw, when is for you to clarify succession planning in family business. Someone commented that they don't have to be necessarily family. I have a colleague I worked with at the UN Human Rights. Unfortunately, the office closed. So my colleague died recently. That was 2-3 months ago. But while at the office, she committed all her leave days going to grow cocoa, coffee, and bananas. And she walked us through the process and even encouraged us and motivated us. I even planted matoke because of her. So now I was just reflecting 2 days ago and I'm like, all this lady's efforts, her children are still young, has just gone like that. And why is that the case? It's because in the family structure today, there is a lot of independence. My thing, my priorities. So I don't know what best the families can do in such situations, because I think the family structure in Uganda needs to first go through a healing process. It's only a small percentage of families that are what you call functional families. But then many are broken and people have trust issues, and this affects succession planning. And then to Enterprise Uganda, what do you need for us to empower you to be our ambassadors to the government to support family businesses? I always cry when I read in situations when schools are closing after the owner has died because the family members are not able to handle that business. Is there a way, an incentive that the government can offer to family businesses to continue? Many have promoted tourism, but the moment they die, the business just dies, and yet they've been contributing to the National Development Plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akelo. There was another hand up. Okay, let's hear from Richard, and then Miss Elizabeth, you can respond. Yes, Richard? Richard?
Hello.
Yes, Richard, we can hear you.
Thank you so much for this topic you have brought us today. What I wanted to ask is about one of the big challenges we face for the family business is the children in the business. They are not considered as workers. They are not paid as other workers are paid in monthly. They are not considered as workers. That is why sometimes they quit from the business, from the family business, and they can begin their own business. We don't know how we can handle that condition so that children cannot quit from the business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, Miss Elizabeth, please come in and answer some of those.
Thank you very much. Quite a number of these were, I think one of them was a comment about the state of families in Uganda, and I appreciate that. And then another one was about families where the couple is doing two different things. I think most couples are doing two different things. Someone works in company X, the other one works in company Y. So that is normal, but I would encourage you to come together, to pool your resources, to do some joint investments for the family. That's what I can say. But I think it's okay if people are doing different things. You should, really focus on the area where you feel you can generate the most value and then come together to plan for the family. That's what I would say. I think I would like to pose a question to the audience. I think someone has talked about the fact that children work in family businesses and they're not compensated the way other employees who come from outside the family are compensated. And but I don't think there was a question there. But maybe another member of the audience can share their thoughts on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there anyone who would like to share their thoughts on the matter? In the meantime, let me read what's here in the WhatsApp group. Thank you for the notification, first of all. You've told us the WhatsApp group for Enterprise Uganda is full, and our admin is trying to work to see that another group is created. Yes, entrepreneurs have filled up the group. So, as other people share their thoughts on the matter, why don't you pay children who work, or why don't we pay children who work in our businesses? And even when we pay them very little money. Okay, so what does David say here? David says, at what stage should the business owners, parents, start to interest or involve their children in the business? I think she mentioned, Miss Elizabeth mentioned, at an early stage, as early as possible, when they're still young. Interest them so that they don't get bored, when they are adults already and you're trying to interest them in something that they didn't know about at a young age. But she'll throw more light on it. Benon says, I have really learned the most key factor as why we should include our children in family business meetings. It's better to settle family business disputes within the meeting than children getting such family dispute information outside the family, leading to much fear of the business. Juliet says the survival of most family businesses are threatened when the founder CEO suffers from a chronic illness. What should be done to prepare for such eventuality? Okay, so now I realize some of these questions are coming in probably by our colleagues who have joined late, but we are going to share the link. We're going to share the link. I'll ask our host to share the YouTube link where this conversation is where you can listen in to this conversation. Alex says, thanks for this great insights into succession. My take is that succession is built over time through early preparation, observation, and mentorship, and empowering potential persons, not only your children, but can be a brother or a good friend. And for the case of Omusika, in my view, he or she supervises the estate, guides, and he or she is accountable for resources for the estate and ensures its progress. Thank you so much for your feedback. Maureen, I'm coming to you. I just want to see what people have written in the chat. Harriet says, we ought to pay them competitively, the children, yes. Then they get a share of the profits. This was a challenge in my father's business. Children were part of it. Salary structure was unclear, so children getting I think, involved in the family business would move on for paying employment. Let's listen in from Maureen, who would like to bring this session to a close. Yes, Maureen, please unmute. Let's hear what you have to say. Maureen? Maureen Dahura. Dahura, your hand is up. Okay. Maureen is not saying anything. Antonia says sometimes the reason they are not paid is because they do not contribute to their upkeep at home. Perhaps an agreement needs to be made with the children about what they contribute to their upkeep at home, or they can move out and handle their own expenses, not getting free food, electricity, water, etc. from the parents. This is important for children to understand. Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Patrick says, thank you for the great eye-opening insights. I feel many questions in my mind are being addressed because I compare how our families flourish while others fail to maintain wealth, even in the next generation. Yet when you look at how Indians run their family businesses, everyone is involved and learning the business before expanding or giving children opportunities to run it. But most of our parents don't want to teach their children how to fish. Instead, they give them all these instead they give them all the all these are deep and powerful truths that can shape our future. Okay, all these are deep and powerful. Thank you. Let me invite Miss Elizabeth to give her final remarks on this topic. Some of the questions raised and the concerns raised she has addressed, and I realize probably those who missed the first session could have missed out. The YouTube link is going to be shared. But Miss Elizabeth, please come in, giving your closing shots, and this could also double as your parting shots. In conclusion, with all that has been said and all the questions that are being asked, what should the entrepreneurs go away with this morning?
Thank you very much, Ms. Malinga. Someone has asked about trusts. There's a video on YouTube, on our YouTube page, where we talked about trusts and wills for about 40 minutes. I would just encourage you to go and watch it. You'll learn something about wills and trusts. That's one. And then we also have a publication about wills and trusts. If you send me a WhatsApp, I can share it with you, just for you to get some ideas. So that's one. In conclusion, I believe I'm talking to a group of business owners. As a business owner, you are in charge of this succession. And you need to understand that if you do not take charge of the process, nobody else can execute it. So just think about, if you're running a business and you feel that it's viable, think about succession. I shared with you some angles in which you can look at it, just for you to structure the process in your mind. If you have very young children, it's a perfect time for you, because you can really now begin to visualize how you can mentor them. And it may not necessarily be to join your business, but to support them in that direction. But yes, just structure the process in your mind as a CEO and prepare, and you'll be very, very, very happy and rewarded with the fruits of what you've been planning. Thank you very much for listening to me today morning. And it has been such a very good engagement. I look forward to coming back. Thank you very much, Enterprise Uganda. Thank you very much, entrepreneurs. And I wish you a happy Independence Day.
Thank you again, Ms. Elizabeth.